Following is a presentation of Retro Sports Network. It is presented by Sports Simulations and Replays on Facebook. Hey, we're 13 short as I tape this of 1,000 members. Join us today, the best group on Facebook to post your sports projects, whether it's tabletop, PC, or console. That's Sports Simulations and Replays on Facebook. Join us today. Subscribers to this channel, and if you're a regular to the channel that haven't subscribed yet, and by God, please do, watched a stream, a game I did, or a couple games I did for a Patreon member who wanted to watch the 1982 Brewers and the 2018 Milwaukee Brewers. The 82 American League champions against the National League Championship finalists, the Milwaukee Brewers. And his concern was that modern teams are just are better than teams from our childhood, essentially. And in the course of those two games, spoiler alert, the 82 Brewers did not do very well. Well, the 82 Brewers aren't very good. Shh, don't tell anybody in Milwaukee's that, but they're not that great. And in fact, this was part of like a 4-game engine project. I did the action PC games. He played them in APA, Strat, and I still think he's got to do deep dive. And in fact, the 82 Brewers have yet to beat the 2018 Brewers in any way, shape, or form. But when you're throwing out Pete Vukovich against Julio Shakeen, that's not going to bode well for you. When your ace pitcher has a whip of 1.5, you're going to lose. And it doesn't matter how good pitching stops good hitting. So he was kind of hemming and hawing about that. And, I can understand why. I mean, we never want what we consider to be the best from our era to be considered inferior. And if you played teams from 1980 and pitted them against teams from, okay, let's say close to 40 years ago, so the late 30s, early 40s, those games I think would be pretty much even. The style of baseball, of course, has changed over the last 40 and 80 years, but the rise of the bullpens just make your window of opportunity for older teams a lot slimmer. So, what I've done is I haven't run this yet, so you're seeing this the same time that I am. I've taken 8 teams, 4 modern pennant winners from both leagues against 4 early 80s pennant winners from both leagues, and we're going to do an 84-game quick replay of a season using Action PCB. All right, I'm going to go to, come on. Okay, so here's the overall pitching stats, and I think this is where you could look to see who I think should come out on top. So we have the 81 New York Yankees, the 81 Los Angeles Dodgers, the 2016 Chicago Cubs, the 1982 St. Louis Cardinals, the 2018 Los Angeles Dodgers, the 2015 New York Mets, the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies, the 1984 San Diego Padres, the 1983 Baltimore Orioles. I didn't have the 2014 season unzipped, so you get the 2012 San Francisco Giants. Judging by the complete games, that's the 2015 Kansas City Royals, the 2018 Boston Red Sox, the 1980 Kansas City Royals, the 2016 Cleveland Indians, the 82 Brewers, and look at that, they have the next to worst ERA right in front of the 2017 Houston Astros. So I don't think that's how they'll finish in the standings. We're going to do an 84-game season between all these teams. The American League teams are paired off against each other, and they will use the DH. The National League teams are paired off against each other, and of course, National League Baseball doesn't use the DH. So I'm expecting a total batting average of about 246, an on-base percentage of around 309, and a slugging percentage around 382, and an ERA of 3.5. But if my theory holds, the teams with the lower ERA are going to finish in the top half of the standings. And if you look at that, the top 4 teams are the 81 Yankees, the 81 Dodgers, the 16 Cubs, and the 82 Cardinals, with the modern Dodgers coming out at 3.40. So we'll see. As far as what other things, there are rainouts and suspended game or rain shortened games. Injuries are limited to one. Everybody plays each other in the leagues anyway, 7 times to get the math to work out right to get 84. So I'll be back after, well, before I pause the video. Here's how they finished in the real life standings, okay? So in the National League, the top 4 teams, the 2016 Cubs, the 2012 Giants, the 81 Dodgers, and the 82 Cardinals. In the American League, the top 4, the 18 Red Sox, the 17 Astros, the 83, wow, I'm surprised at that, the 83 Orioles, and which Kansas City team is that? That's the older one. The 80 Royals finished 4th. All right, okay. So it's by winning percentage. So we're going to play the 84 games. I'm going to pause the video, and when I come back, go see if I was right. Okay, it's done. I just looked to see if it was done, and I know who won the National League, and I think someone's going to be surprised. With the caveat being that I really haven't. I know that the Red Sox and the Astros in modern times were superior teams overall. I mean, the Red Sox last year won 108 games. Houston won over 105. In the early 80s, there wasn't really a dominant team. I think the Dodgers and Yankees, as I said, had the best pitching. But the dominant teams of, I just said that, the superior teams of the 80s came mid-decade. The 84 Tigers, you could even say the 84 Cubs, certainly the 86 Mets, and probably the 88 or 89 Oakland A's. Those, I would, in my view, are the cream of the cream. I could say that to anybody. That's not to denigrate the teams in the early 80s who played well, but to me, they don't stand as all-time teams. So are you ready? I'm ready. Let's take a look at whose cuisine reigns supreme. Well, how about this? How about the 82 St. Louis Cardinals winning that National League by a game over the 17 Dodgers and the 18 Dodgers and the 16 Cubs. The 81 Dodgers finished 6 back. The 12 Giants 7 back. The 83 Phillies 9 or the 80 Phillies 9 back. Then the 15 Mets and the 84 San Diego Padres, which I'm not surprised. In the American League, it is, in fact, indeed, the 17 Houston Astros, which is not a surprise at all. Now, which Kansas City team is that? It is, it's the 80 Kansas City team. Ho, ho, ho. And wowzers. And George Brett hit 347 in 84 games, okay? And the 18 Red Sox finished at 44 and 40, and then the 82 Brewers at 43 and 41. The 81 Yankees at 42 and 42. So no one really ran away with it. Let's see. ERA, Chris Sale at a 1.66 ERA overall. Batting wise, Houston, Cleveland, which I'm not surprised. The modern teams had the better batting, and the older teams had the better pitching. So there you go. And Joaquin Andujar was named the Cy Young Award winner. So kind of a combination of things. Let's take a closer look at the math. All right, we needed 246, 309, 382, and 358. Your average, your base percentage, slugging, and ERA. That's how they lined up in real life. Well, in the replay, they hit 10 points better. 318 was the on-base percentage, 393 the slugging percentage, and the ERA was 401. Look at Cleveland. They had a team ERA of 509. The Yankees and the Dodgers finished 1 and 2 at 324. So yeah. Okay, what do we say? 401 is the replay. 358 is the real. So teams certainly hit better. On-base percentage was 9 points higher, and the slugging percentage was 11 points higher. But that's okay. Remember, these really weren't designed. We did the blended offense. That's actually quite outstanding. And we actually did get complete games from the older teams, and the newer teams had very few, or in the case of the last year's Dodgers, none. Take a look at the batting. Houston and Milwaukee. Wow, Milwaukee had 125 doubles in half a year and 104 home runs. So they did their part. An OPS is 712 in the replay. And wow, was actually lower OPS in real life than real life. Okay. So what does this tell us overall? Again, so in the National League, the older team had the best record, St. Louis. So the 80s teams went 1, 4, 6, and 8. Okay? And in the American League, the older teams went 2, 4, 5, and 6. So about 50-50. No one ran away with it. St. Louis won it by a game, and Houston only won by 3 over Kansas City. So I think I can show you team versus team. Okay? So let's take a look at the National League. Let's take a look at who had the best record. Philadelphia. They went 7-5 against one Dodger team, 5-7 against the modern Cubs, 5-7 against the modern Mets, 4-8 against San Francisco, 5-7 against the other Dodger team, and 7-5 against St. Louis, and 7-5 or 6-6 against San Diego. St. Louis. 7-5. They went 8-4 against the modern Cubs, 9-3 against the modern Mets, 7-5 against the modern Giants, and I don't know which LA team was which, but they had a winning record. Let's go to the American League. Let's take a look, because Kansas City's the only one to have 2. So the 80 Yankees. Against the combined Kansas Cities, they went 12-12. The modern teams. Cleveland 7-5, Houston 4-8, and Boston 5-7. Milwaukee. The older teams I think are on the left. So Milwaukee against the modern teams, 8-4 against the 15 Royals, 8-4 against the 16 Indians, 6-6 against the 17 Astros, and 4-8 against the Boston Red Sox. That's pretty good. Houston did well against the modern teams, 8-4 against the Houston. They struggled with the 80 Royals. They had the better of the 81 Yankees. They went even with the Brewers, and they, it's about 6-2 and even. So what does this prove? It pretty much proves that although Houston won in the modern pool, in the American League pool, nobody ran away with it. Boston, who won 108 games in their season, went 44-40. This was the best against the best. And that Cleveland and Kansas City in the American League, two of the more modern teams that you think would have the advantage, were the worst of the bunch, along with the 84 Padres. But the 84 Padres probably shouldn't have beaten the 84 Cubs, and certainly weren't going to beat the 84 Tigers. And if I had thrown the 84 Tigers in, I think that would have thrown off the balance. So what does this mean over a longer stretch? I think things are pretty much even. The American League, 2 modern teams, 2 older teams in the top 4. In the National League, 2 older teams and 2 modern teams. So again, no one really ran away with it. The modern Mets finished in 7th place. Philadelphia, again, not a great team in 83. I mean, they did win the pennant. They got clobbered by Baltimore in 5 games. Both the 83 teams didn't finish very well. The 82 team, St. Louis, of course, won. Milwaukee finished 4th, only 5 games behind. So over the course of 162 games, I think if you just threw in teams from different eras, that they would kind of all balance well. Fair to say, at least using Action PC, that modern teams do not have an unfair advantage over older teams. That's a pretty good mix. You had pretty good races down the stretch. And as I said, the top four in each league, if you were to do a playoff, has two older teams and two modern teams. And so there you go. So there you have it. Well, hopefully this will spark some questions. And if you'd like to see more of this type of stuff, ask. I'm Ron Juckett for Retro Sports Network, and we'll talk to you the next time.